Deal with it. Hello. Welcome to Actors Anonymous Podcast. I'm your host, Wissam Kish, and his last episode co-hosting is Jordan Burbank.
I'm about to be fired, but that's fine.
Oh, man. Guys, I'm already
Happy
heated
holidays.
up. Yeah, happy holidays.
Are you mad?
I'm
Are
a
you
little
okay?
I'm a little heated right now. We were just talking about with our guest, who is, let me introduce our guest first, and then we'll
That
get
might
into
help.
this.
You
Matt,
don't have to. You don't
We
have to
don't-
introduce me first.
you know
We
what,
can
you
talk
know-
about Heat first.
Secret guest. We're not
No,
going to say your
it's
name the
okay.
whole time.
Let's go.
Matthew Lieberman.
Yes, sir.
Matthew Lieberman is the host for his personal YouTube channel, Matthew Lieberman. He's a host at SourceFed and Afterbuzz, and he has a passcode. Oh my gosh, podcast called AskLiebs. Right?
I also have several passcodes, but I'm not going to share them here for security reasons.
Okay, we were just talking about Instagram photos and how you say it's not okay to like pictures that people have posted in the past.
In the past. Just on a pure, like, not being a creep level. Like, if you are trying to preserve your not creepness, there is a moratorium on any photos posted previously. You can't like them unless it's because of a conversation that you just had, or they mentioned the photo or something, and you looked through it because of that, or maybe if it's like artistic or something.
Or comedy.
What's
Yeah.
the
comedy joke.
timeline then, Mr. Instagram Guru?
I will say this. If it is posted that day, then it's not creepy. The further away from the day that you like the photo, like if it's from 2 months ago and it's just them, especially in a bikini or
God,
shirtless
yeah.
or at the gym or something, creepy. Like, you wouldn't go through someone's Facebook timeline months into the past and look for a photo and like it.
No, man, that's I do that all the time.
Why?
I
Why
say
I do?
weak.
No, this is what I.
What message
like-
are you trying to send?
Okay, this is what I do sometimes. If somebody comments to me on Instagram, they're like, "Oh, I love you on the show," or "Man, this is really funny. You're hilarious." I'll click on their profile and I'll be like, "Who is this person who left us such a nice comment on my
They
picture?"
like every single one of their photos.
Yeah, and then I say how much I love them, and I go back into their photos, and if there's a photo I think is like, "Oh, that's really cool," I'll like it regardless of how far back I've gone in, and I've gone back far.
But let me ask you, what do you think the message they receive is when they see, he liked my photo. Wait, it's from like a while ago. Wait, so how deep did he go through my photos?
Yeah, I went pretty deep.
Wait a second. So
Balls deep.
this means that he went balls deep through the last year of my life.
Yeah. Then don't post.
Ooh.
If you're
Got a lot of time on his hands.
Whoa,
Here
whoa,
we go,
whoa.
Mr. Matthew. If you're uncomfortable with posting stuff that happened a year ago, don't be upset when I go, "Oh, I'll go a year back."
Expect your phone to blow up in like
Listen,
an hour.
I'm
I
gonna
feel
like
leave the
every
studio.
single photo you have.
That's the beautiful thing is, like, I never pay attention to like Instagram notifications because like it's stupid, but like a lot of people follow me on Instagram, so I don't know when people like
too
stuff
many.
or comment
Right, you
stuff.
have too much
so
love.
I don't know. So I won't know is what I'm saying. You
No.
can go ahead and I won't know.
I'll do this though, and this is just purely for fun. I will go on to explore on Instagram.
Sure.
And I will like search people who have had like food, and there's like a bunch of people at a dinner or whatever, and they look like they're having a good time. I know none of them in the photo, and I'll post stuff like, "Guys, why didn't you invite me this time? I hate it when you do this."
See, that's really funny.
Yeah.
That's different.
No, that's different. You
That's
should-
like, I know he looked at this photo for comedy, not this guy is like creeping on my photos for some reason that I don't understand.
And usually people get it, and they're like, "We'll invite you next time," and I'm like, "Ah,
Wait,
they're
people
smart."
actually write you back?
Oh yeah, all the time.
That's fantastic.
yeah.
We were shooting a thing at SourceFed a couple of weeks ago, and my friend Gabby Dunn was there with us, and she has gotten into the habit. She got me into the habit of searching hashtags on Instagram to see like hashtags like #talented_kids. And like looking through for like, because some kids are very talented, but then for the kids who aren't talented,
Oh my God.
yeah, or #goddess, but with 1 D instead of 2, like misspelled hashtags, and seeing who's putting them up, and then liking some of those photos.
That's
Dude.
brilliant.
I just got into that world recently
Really?
when my friend the Morris family in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who are big supporters of me and the show, they posted something like a funny family photo, and the hashtag was like weirdo family, right? And I was like, "Oh, cool."
That's
Like,
an amazing hashtag.
Yeah, and it was funny. It was cute picture, and I was like, you know what? click on the hashtag and see what other weirdo families there are. Literally, the second picture was those people who, and no judgment, kudos to you that you can do this. They were hanging themselves by their skin on the back, and they were just hanging there. And like some lady was knitting, and she was being hung by her skin. And
That's
I was
amazing.
like, oh, this is not what I expected. I was like, don't click on your hashtag, Kayla.
Yeah.
Don't click on it.
No, like looking like hashtag I love pizza or like hashtag set life or hashtag booked it
God.
are amazing.
Booked it.
Hashtag
Booked
booked
it.
it
Oh my God.
is the saddest one, I think,
Oh.
on a lot of levels. Because like people will put it there and it's like for any like size of thing, but then the photo is like usually has nothing to do with the fact that they booked it. It's like I got a Starbucks to celebrate because I booked it. And it's now I feel bad. I'm
How dare you, Matt?
I don't know. Everyone has like a mean streak, and I feel like I've pushed mine down so far that anytime it surfaces, it gives me this illicit thrill, and then I immediately feel bad about it.
Only my close friends know how mean I am.
Really?
Yeah, and the people in this room probably know I can get really mean.
It's a
Door's about
trap.
to lock.
Yeah.
It's like
Okay.
metal that
Yeah.
goes down
So
the windows.
you mentioned SourceFed.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like?
What's it like?
What is Source?
What is SourceFed?
No, I'm
Source. Well, for people who
I'm
don't
kidding.
know,
Yeah.
SourceFed Nerd. It's a whole network of channels that were founded by Philip DeFranco in association with
I love it.
YouTube a few years ago. I love it.
I love it. I don't know what it is. But
No,
I'm kidding.
listening right
SourceFed.
No.
SourceFed is ostensibly it's a comedy news channel. It's it's often pitched as like the Daily Show for millennials, which I feel like is like a whole marketing phrase, but it's just jokes. It's like we're taking stuff from the news and from pop culture and turning it into jokes. I was a host on SourceFed for I guess about like 16, 18 months, and then I got pulled off of SourceFed to work on a new channel called Nuclear Family that hopefully is going to launch in the next few months.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And what is the concept behind that?
Unfortunately, it hasn't been announced yet,
Okay,
and I
so
don't
you
know
can't-
what I'm allowed to
Very
talk
hush
about.
hush.
So it's about like the metaphysics and
Yeah,
physics.
absolutely. It's about cryptozoology. It's about
Right.
post-apocalyptic leanings. It's about politics.
Subthermal nuclear physics.
Yeah, deep dives into fission. No, it's a comedy channel, and I write for the channel. I produce for the channel, and I'm on the channel. So you'll know more about it when we're allowed to tell people, I guess.
Dude.
It's been a weird situation because we've been now working on it since I believe like the beginning of August, and we can't tell anybody anything. So a lot of the people who watch SourceFed are very confused because it's like, did that not happen? Are you guys still there? Are you dead? Are you alive? Because then we'll pop up on some other random
Are
video.
you dead? Are you alive?
Well, because they don't know. Because a lot of
Right.
people, it's so funny because like they'll follow someone on Twitter, but they won't actually pay attention to any of that. They just see the channel. They just see the videos.
Yeah.
That's I want to talk about this then. The followership that people
Sure.
They get from having a great YouTube series or podcast. Whenever you have this certain amount of consistency, like okay, every Monday we'll post, or like every Friday there'll be a video specifically for like something or whatever.
Mhm.
If you miss one of those days, people are like, "What? Where did it go? What? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Like this is part of my life. What's going on?"
Well, I remember
It's
before.
amazing.
Yeah, well, consistency, if you're trying to do anything on the internet, consistency is so important because it's the same way, like if you were to watch TV, and this is a bad example, but like let's say you watched Everwood all the time, and all of a sudden Everwood was not on Monday nights or whenever it aired. Then you'd be like, what the fuck happened to Everwood? Am I allowed to swear on the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Profusely.
All right, cool.
Only if you substitute the F word with Kugels.
Kugels.
Okay.
What the Kugels happened to Everwood?
I love how high your voice went. That's amazing.
Kugels. So I used to like read a bunch of web comics when I was in college, and there was no Twitter, so there were no updates. So if the comic didn't post, I would just keep checking back all day, every day, and then if it didn't update, I would just drop the comic. And then eventually, maybe it came back and they did a whole new series of strips, and I'd read through those, and then I would wait for more. You need to be able to update your audience, and they need to know what's going on. So in terms of followership, it's very interesting because depending on the platform, you're going to have more people follow you on Twitter or on Instagram or whatever versus another one. Like podcasts, I've found very rarely lead to follows on any other kind of platform. And I think it's by simple fact that it's an audio medium,
Right.
and they enjoy the show and they like you on the show, but they don't actually necessarily relate to you on the level that somebody watching you on YouTube does. Because when someone's watching you on YouTube, they feel like on some level they do know you. And they want to hear what you have to say, and they want to know when all your videos are posting, because they don't know when more or less videos will post. If it's a podcast, I know that it will turn up on this day every week. So
It seems more like a business.
It's already been, it's, I think we've been told about this. It's always supplementary, whatever else we do, like in terms of like the YouTube channel, you know, sometimes people want to see our guests, but primarily the main followership is the listenership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I was doing so before SourceFed. My first hosting job was Afterbuzz TV, which is Maria Menounos' company.
I was just on there.
Oh, what did you do over at Afterbuzz?
For my show, Awkward.
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. We had it was a lot of fun.
Oh wait,
their new studios are on.
on Burbank. Yeah, who hosts the Awkward after show?
Oh my gosh. I'm blanking out on their name
because I know my friend Hannah wanted to host that show, but I don't know if she does now.
Okay.
But in any case, it's an amazing place, especially if you're somebody who wants to be a host or wants to be in front of the camera. Like, just here, I'll go. Can I go even further back? Can I just like tell how I wound up there?
Please.
So when I came out here, I'd always wanted to act and I'd always wanted to perform, but I kind of had it drummed out of me by the time I went to college. My parents convinced me that it was a bad idea. And I let them. And, because I also loved writing and producing and directing, and I wanted to go to film school, so I went there instead. And I spent most of my time there writing and producing stuff for their TV station and for the web and doing sketch comedy. And I started doing stand-up, and I fell back in love with performing. So I came out here trying to become a writer, and actually got hired out of school by Fremantle Media, which is like the largest production company in the world. They do American Idol, America's Got Talent, X Factor, Price is Right. They do like all the big
any of those
talent and all those shows. So I got hired out of school to develop reality shows for them, which was like kind of a crazy thing. They had this pilot program where they brought 10 soon to be graduating college seniors out to LA to pitch them a show. Basically, we had a week to learn from them and to pitch a reality series to them. And they optioned my show. It was a docuseries about identical twins. And they hired me on for a year, and that turned into 2 years. And, it was a very, very good job, like a crazy cool job for somebody who was right out of school and had no experience, but it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I realized that I really, really, really wanted to be an actor. I really wanted to be in front of the camera. And I had started to fall in love with hosting because we would do these game show run-throughs. When we were developing game shows, we would bring in contestants for this new game show before we ever put any money behind it. And we would just run it in a conference room, and they'd let me host these run-throughs. And it was just such a blast that when I heard about Afterbuzz from one of my coworkers, who's also an Emerson alum, and the guy, Phil Svitek, who's the executive producer over there, he's an Emerson alum. Maria Menounos is an Emerson alum. Like, it's a whole big Emerson thing over there.
Right.
So he was telling me about it and the fact that he had no hosting experience, but they let him go on and talk about TV shows. I was like, I could do that too. So it's an amazing place because they will take someone with no experience. You go in, you do an interview, you fill out an application, and you post like, a 5-minute video of you talking about your favorite show. That's it. That's all that was required. And after I had quit my job to pursue acting, and I'd gotten like a few small things, but nothing that was really moving my career forward. To have somebody just take me just because I was good was a huge deal. And I started hosting the Doctor Who after show for them because I loved that show. And one of my co-hosts who was hosting then, she got hired off by IGN, so she stopped coming. So I started taking over the show. And before I knew it, I was lead hosting that panel, and then I was lead hosting, I think I did Happy Endings was my next one.
Oh my God, don't even.
And then
that's the best show ever.
It was a great show. But I also learned something very, very crucial, which is that recapping a comedy is a thankless task.
Yeah.
Because whether you're reviewing it for a website or you're doing it on camera or you're doing a podcast, people just watched a show that made them laugh hysterically. And now you're trying to compete with that show because they are expecting the after show to also be funny because what is there to analyze? You're just talking about this made me laugh, this made me laugh, this made me laugh, and maybe talking about the storylines a little bit.
Especially an absurd concept, like, you know, they just go anywhere with it. So yeah, it's kind of
exactly. So after that, I wound up doing Mad Men because surprisingly, no one wanted to do it.
Why?
It's weird.
I think it's just because when you're talking about these big prestige dramas, unless it's something like Game of Thrones where everyone wants to talk about Game of Thrones and have their own opinion about it, if it's very dry, people don't want to take the risk of the audience hating them because you need to really, really respect the show and you need to respect the audience. I think that when you're recapping a TV show, you need to, whether you have credentials or not, you treat it like you're a critic and you treat it like it's art and you treat it with respect. And that always worked really well for me because we were able to get showrunners onto our podcasts to talk about the show because we always treated it with respect. One great example of this is Banshee on Cinemax, which very few people know about that show. It's an excellent show that's going into its final season. It's a pulpy action drama executive produced by Alan Ball, who did 6 Feet Under, among other things, and True Blood.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And Greg Yatanis, who is the director / showrunner of the show, he found our podcast, and we were among the only people talking about it as art, as drama, like on every level, not just some dumb action show, because it's not. It's deeper. The character relationships are deeper. The way that they shoot the show is very fascinating. The way they put together their action sequences, and it became a huge thing for him, where he would listen to our podcast over a cup of coffee and hear in his, what do a critic that actually cares, what do they think of the show? And so he started coming in and helping us get guests, and that happened many more times. It actually led to a great relationship with Cinemax, which, like, they're going through a creative renaissance right now that no one is paying attention to.
Yeah.
At all.
Cinemax?
Cinemax. The Nick is, for my money, the best show on TV.
I've heard that before, too, right?
Yeah. So that show, Steven Soderbergh directs every episode of that show, and he shoots every shot of that show by himself. The actors receive the whole season's worth of scripts as one big script, and they rehearse it like a play. It's unlike any other series I've ever seen, and it's incredibly well written. And this is like something like never judge a book by its cover. The writers of that show, who write every episode, their last produced credit, I believe, is the Tim Allen movie, The Shaggy Dog. And I would have immediately written them off. But they're incredible writers. They're terrific. And the way that the show is produced is unlike anything I've ever seen. The 7th episode of the first season, I'm sorry I'm talking so much about TV. But
No. Continue. I just wanted to hit 2 things you just said.
Okay.
Treating the show with respect, I think, is such an amazing and the right thing to do whenever you're critiquing a show. Mm-hmm. I was just on YouTube, and there's a few subscriberships that I have. One of them is called the Nostalgia Critic. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
You're familiar with this?
I haven't watched. I don't know that I've watched any of the Nostalgia Critic stuff, but I've heard of the Nostalgia Critic.
Amazing. His earlier stuff is really funny. He takes like old nostalgic movies and he just critiques them in a very great way. And sometimes he finds the positive in them, but for the most part, you realize, wow, these were actually not very well made movies.
Shit.
Yeah. And then he started.
Has he done Hook?
Oh, I don't know if he's done Hook.
Hook is definitely one of those movies that people are seeing through rose-colored glasses.
Oh man, I still love it though.
My girlfriend loves it too. She adores that movie. It is not a good movie.
He has one of the best reviews he's done is Jungle to Jungle with Tim Allen.
Oh my god,
I think I watched that when I was younger like 30 times. Mm-hmm. But then his review, I'm like, wow, this movie is horrible.
Yeah.
Like, it has so many plot holes.
Well, it's like you look at something like Revenge of the Nerds, which is such like a cult classic. There is a scene that is effectively rape in that movie.
Yeah.
There is a scene that is 100% rape. And that's just supposed to be a fun movie. No.
I think I'm obsessed with American Dad, but they actually call them out in the episode. It's like the scene, like, that scene where he basically rapes her, and they're all just like they just like stare along like
that's fantastic. That makes me happy.
Well, one of his more recent reviews was Hocus Pocus, and I was like, oh man, before I even go through start watching this, I know people are going to
carefully, my friend.
Right? No.
People adore that movie.
Oh, and I do too. Oh, like you're choking right now.
Yeah, just a little bit.
No,
How dare you make
so I went through the thing, and there was so many negative comments, not because he's reviewing Hocus Pocus, but because they're like, there wasn't a critique in this. You just basically did a bunch of sketches making fun of the movie.
Ooh,
there was there was no critique.
He's lost the thread of what made him popular.
There you go. For that video, everybody was like, dude, we love your reviews. And they weren't just like, you know how you have idiots always on social media like, this is stupid, and they're not very well educated. There was such educated comments on there like, hey, the reason why I've always subscribed to your show was because like you're always so poignant, you're you know, like you hit very great points and all this stuff, but like this episode there was no critique.
Well, that's the interesting thing, is you can never lose the thread of what is the appeal of your program. Like, that's the thing with AfterBuzz TV, is you have to know your audience. The only people who are going to tune in for a recap show of a television show are people who are fans of the show. So if you don't like the show, or if you think that the show isn't as good as it should be, you have to tread lightly, because ultimately the audience for your show are the people who think that show is great. And I've started to fall into the trap of, if a show starts to disappoint me, two perfect examples are Under the Dome and The Strain, which both started very strong and ultimately became mediocre to terrible. I fell into the trap of complaining about the show and bashing the show, and people were really upset. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to turn on your audience or what made them fans of yours,
right,
you need to be able to back it up. So like the fact that he did a series of sketches about a movie that is very beloved but does deserve a serious critique.
It does.
Is a big problem, because when you're picking that movie, you need to bring the heat in terms of criticism.
Oh yeah, and the whole thing was like and it was like 30 minutes long, but it was just like a bunch of sketches pulled together, and every now and then they'd poke fun at the movie. It was like there was nothing. Everybody, and I was like, holy crap, they're so right. I'm so amazed that the fans were so loyal and they were like so genuinely upset. That just amazed me, and I'm like, okay.
Well, there's 20 years of watching that movie every Halloween for those people too. Like, and the other thing too is like when you're using YouTube, when you're going online, when you're doing search engines in general, if you're doing a thing that's Hocus Pocus, someone has to type in Hocus Pocus if they're not a fan of you, and they're gonna find that. So if you're really aiming towards whatever content you're trying to hit hard with, you were saying, bring it. Otherwise, like, your fandom is gonna judge you super hard.
Yeah,
absolutely. You're so correct. And to give Nostalgia Critic, Doug Walker is his name, some mad props. One of the best videos he's posted is the one with AI. And it was originally, oh my gosh, The Shining.
It was a Stanley Kubrick film that he'd never finished, and he passed off to Steven Spielberg before he died.
Right, and then the whole time it's like talking about, you think, oh man, like Steven Spielberg ruined this, this wasn't good, this one wasn't good, and then at the end you realize, oh wow, those were a lot of Kubrick's ideas that Steven was trying to like pay homage to, and the whole thing, you just come around and you're like, wow, like this just took it to the next level.
Right.
So definitely something to check out. Check out those both reviews and see like
the difference in quality.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it all comes down to respecting your audience, and I feel like it's a lot harder when you're doing daily content like we do at SourceFed to keep that in the back of your mind of the audience ultimately is on your side, and you should be on the audience's side. Because you're trying to make something, you're trying to make art, you're trying to make comedy, you're trying to report the news, whatever you're doing, reviewing a TV show, whatever it is that you're doing, you are trying to do it to the best of your ability. And when the audience rejects it, it's very easy to fall into the trap of, well, they didn't get it, or they're wrong, or F the audience, which is a huge mistake. I know when I was first doing SourceFed, I was struggling because it wasn't something that I'd ever done before. It wasn't my type of comedy. I was stepping into a very established comedy brand on YouTube that people were huge fans of. And to be honest, I was met with a lot of hate right off the top. And it shook me. I'd never really gotten that level of negative feedback, and it really upset me on a couple of levels. One, just because I felt like I couldn't defend myself against it, and two, I was still learning how to do that format, and I was still learning what worked. And I was the guy who felt like we're a news channel and a comedy channel, so it's our responsibility to report the news, even if we can't make it funny. And when I realized that a video about something pop culture-y or about emojis or something like that would be way more worth my time in terms of what's successful for this channel and would do far better than a well-researched piece on, say, Ferguson, it really depressed me. It really depressed me that the audience wasn't interested in that, interested in the serious thing that I wanted to do. And
actually, I have a question for that. On that note, was I mean, I work with Phil too, so I kind of get that vibe. But I'm curious, since you've been hosting for so long, like and you have like your own channels and everything, how do you decide to change something within your programming to a degree where you can be able to do something you want to do without basically pissing off your audience or trying to take it in a new direction without losing it or even building it?
You agonize over it and you do your best. Like that's kind of like not necessarily a problem, but it's something that I've been dealing with now, because my personal channel, I never intended for it to be a positivity and self-help channel. Never, ever. I never got into this business to do that. I had wanted to launch my own channel for a while, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. So I thought that, you know what, I'm just going to make myself get started and take it from there. So I started a daily self-help vlog that was basically about my weight loss journey. I was going to take 2 months and try to get fit in 2 months. And I invited the people who were watching to vlog along with me. And it instead of it just being a one-way like I make videos, they comment on videos, that's it. They were all making videos too and watching each other's videos, and it became this little community of people who weren't necessarily worried about weight loss. Some were, but mostly they weren't. They were dealing with other issues, anxiety, love, depression, all kinds of stuff. So I started to tailor my content to what they actually needed and what they actually were talking about, and it became this kind of like self-love positivity vlog. And they really, really enjoyed it. And people started writing me emails, asking me questions, because it seemed like I knew what I was talking about, which for the record, I don't. Like legitimately, I used to be somebody who I was hopelessly hooked on marijuana. I did not like myself. I spent all of my time that I wasn't working alone in my room high because I didn't want to face the world. I worked really hard. I went through therapy for several years and really did a lot of hard work learning how to like myself and processing a lot of the things that I was still holding on to from my childhood. And long story short, I found a great deal of perspective, and I realized
Good for you, man. Like seriously, no, I don't mean that, and like, I really mean that. Like, fucking hey, you worked your ass off to get out of that state. That's fucking amazing.
Thank you. It's that's the thing is, in a lot of my audience, I see myself. I see who I was, who I could have been had I not reached some pretty epic epiphanies, which, I consider kind of late in the game when I was like 24. And like a lot of these, folks that watch me are between the ages of like 16 and 22. And I'm trying to, I really felt the need to try to help them reach that place earlier so that maybe they'd have a better shot at having a better early adult life, and that can maybe mean all this other stuff. I don't remember, I always bring up this quote and I never know who to attribute it to, but someone said, in life you should try to be the person you needed growing up, and I needed someone doing what I'm doing right now. So it does bring me a great deal of gratification to help these young people and older people. Like some people watch me and write in are in their 30s. One woman was in her early 40s who wrote to me, and it is gratifying, but it is hard and intense because a lot of the questions that I answer, a lot of the people who write to me are in very dire situations, whether they're dealing with alcoholic or drug addicted parents, or coming out, or body dysphoria, or like a lot of things that I'm really just giving my perspective on, not knowing a ton about.
How do you deal with that? Like on a level of like, there's got to be a huge feeling of responsibility to provide information to these people, but also there's also like this like probably level of like how much information do I get? And it's like you want to influence and help them, but it's also like do you find that there's a boundary of like I want to help you, but I don't want to like there's like a responsibility there too that might be.
I'll say this. I've been bad to myself in that I crossed that boundary quite a bit. I've shared more than I think if I if I didn't feel responsible for other people who I've never met, which is like so crazy, but if I didn't feel responsible for them, there's a lot of things that I probably would never have said on the internet and have out in the world right now. But I knew that if I said them, it would really help. It could potentially really help somebody who was dealing with something similar. Just to let them know that they're not the only person who's ever felt that way or ever hated themselves. Like there's a lot of stuff that I wished I had heard from someone that I respected, that it was okay to have this thought or question this thing or not be sure or not know what I wanted to do with my life or be afraid that I'd be alone forever. Like a lot of the stuff that is normal to me now, I really was terrified of growing up.
It's the organism that our soul embodies is just a human, like what we are. I mean, that's super complex.
Sure.
Well, I mean, just the amount of thoughts you have in one day and how they branch out, that alone boggles my mind.
The human brain is, we may never fully understand it. It's an incredibly powerful organ, but everything else that we are is just meat.
It's chemicals too. I mean, it's meat, but I mean, like, there's so much complexity. Forget the brain. Let's just say forget the brain, which is hard to do because that's part of the body.
Forget the brain.
Hashtag forget the brain. But
let's look that up on Instagram.
I have a lot of respect for you now from what you said, and I'm gonna
now.
I'm
just fucking with you.
No. Yeah, I know that sounds funny, but like,
no, thank you.
Well, from what you just said, because you're sharing your personal demons and the things you learn from them and your struggles and you fucking worked your ass off to get into a better place. And you don't know how much I love hearing that, because there are so many people, and I'm not condemning them for that, but they just give up. And I understand why they give up. But when you see those few stories of people who are like, no, I want to get better. And I'm going to lose part of myself, but it's the worst part of myself. And that's fine. I'm going to be and it's my mistake. I'm taking responsibility. Here I go. And now you're helping people out of those situations. Dude, fucking kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Take a quick break?
And I want to get back to your question, Jordan, because it is a very good question.
I have a follow-up to that.
Okay.
Maybe should we do the break first and then come back with it?
What do you think, Nicole? Yeah, Nicole's nodding. Yeah, let's do a break.
Shut the fuck up.
We still got a lot to talk about. We'll be right back.
Put a flavored condom on your head because your mind is about to get blown.
High school is over.
Blackout party at the beach, bitches! You're legit popular.
Maddie f***ing McKevin.
You have to tell her.
I still want to be with you. You still want to be with me?
Welcome to the Enchanted Fantasy Prom. Be sure to sign up for the raffle. You could win a rainbow.
Awkward. Season 5 premiering August 31st at 9/8 Central. Only on MTV.
Oh, we're back.
Are we back?
Should we talk about the Instagram thing more or about this?
Instagram etiquette.
I'm trying to remember the last thing that you said, because there were 2 points that I wanted to make before we went on break. Well, you were talking about, like, basically what I was saying about.
Kudos to you for
thank you
sharing.
So,
yeah, that's what I was saying.
And then I'm going to circle around. I'm going to answer your question.
No, I have another one.
Okay. There are two, like, a lot of big misconceptions, a lot of lies that we're fed when we're very young that greatly affect our ability to be successful, to be satisfied with our lives. One of which is that happiness is the goal. That everything we're doing, it's supposed to make us happy. We're supposed to be happy. The problem is you cannot sustain happiness forever. And really, you can't sustain it more than for a couple of days at a time, because over time, bad things will happen and you need to react to them as a human being, which means sometimes they'll disappoint you, sometimes they'll depress you. That's just part of life. Depression is natural. We're not trying to be happy. The goal is to be functional, to be in a place where if a bad thing happens to me, I can accept that it's bad. I know how I feel about it. I can let myself feel that way, but it's not going to derail my ability to function as a human being. I'm still going to be able to go to all the things that I need to go to. I'm still going to be able to look after the people that I need to look after. You know, if it's a monetary thing, I'm going to be able to, in my head, say, okay, if I got a parking ticket, now I can't afford this, this, and this. So what am I going to do? How can I be pragmatic about it? The idea of pragmatism, emotional pragmatism, social pragmatism is something that isn't really taught anywhere, but it's the easiest and smartest way, I think, to live, where you can say, I know that I feel this way. For example, let me think. So I got a ticket a few weeks ago because I rolled through a red light and a cop saw me. Horrible. I was so ashamed, so embarrassed, and I'd just gotten frozen yogurt from my girlfriend and it was melting and I was like anxious and I wanted to get back to her, and I could have just gotten like really, really pissed off about it and let it ruin my night, right? Because it's like a $300 ticket.
Yeah.
That money that realistically I don't really have right now, and it kind of put a kibosh on the evening. Instead, I realized I made a mistake. It's something that I need to keep an eye on. I shouldn't do that again. There's no point in beating myself up over it because it already happened and there's nothing I can do to change it. I know what are a few ways that I can save money so that I can pay this ticket in a responsible amount of time. I know that I shouldn't eat out for the next probably 3 weeks. So I'm like thinking in my head, like, what do I have in my fridge? What do I have in my pantry? I can make that work. Like, I know that we get free bagels in the office on Fridays. So I know that at the very least, I have 1 to 2 free meals there. Instead of letting the fact that it sucked and that I'm embarrassed about it get in the way of my ability to continue to live, I quickly made some decisions that kept me on the right track. So I feel like finding functionality versus finding happiness is like kind of a key thing that a lot of people, I think, don't hear about very often. I can't remember the other misconception.
Well,
I know
No, it's fine. I just think you hit upon something too, like the idea of happiness and why we want it,
mm-hmm.
and that sustainability of happiness. Like, what is happiness? That's a very serious question, and for me, it holds a lot of weight. I don't know about you guys, like what, and it goes back to and to get more at the core of it, if you will. Why we do anything of what we do?
Sure.
Why are you doing these podcasts? Why am I doing this podcast? Why am I here in LA? Why am I thinking the way I'm thinking? I know these are extremely deep and metaphysical questions, but I want answers. I want answers.
Well, that's the thing, man. It's like this is kind of the core of who I am, and I think it's kind of why it's a little hard sometimes, maybe on a comedy channel, for people to vibe with me, is because this is where I come from. Is I come from a very serious, very real place, and when I find joy in things, when I find the silliness and the humor in things, that's kind of my raison d'etre. Like that's like being able to find joy in dark places. I think is one of the most beautiful and powerful things that you can do, and I think it's a skill that all people have. We just rarely exercise.
Look at soldiers in war.
Sure,
you think the whole time they're like, they joke around a lot.
Sure, you have to be able to cope with that kind of stuff. Let me say this, and then I swear to God, George,
I know. I
so
swear
sorry
to
God.
I've been waiting.
Yeah,
sorry.
So,
I won't.
This is kind of like if I were to give you a thesis statement. For life on a level, like this is something that is very, very intrinsic to who I am. None of us asked to be here. None of us asked to be born. Two people threw DNA at each other, and then you were a cell, then you were 2 cells, then 4, then 8, then 16, and eventually you developed organs, and one of them was a brain, and it started recording information long before you'll ever be able to remember anything, while you were still trapped in your mother's belly. And all of a sudden, after you have some idea of what existence is, because you're in this belly for, at that point, your entire life, all at once, you are thrust out into the world, into a cacophony of sound and air and light and touch, and everything that you knew about existence is now irrelevant because now you're out in the world. And you never intended to be, and you don't even remember these moments because you don't actually have memories that you can really call upon until you're like 2 or 3 or 4 years old, and eventually those memories start to fade as well. So I feel like on some level, we're not spending our lives trying to figure out, like, why are we here? It's getting over the fact that we were born at all. And to cope with that, I think that's why the idea of happy is so huge. Because when you're a kid, it's easier to hold on to happy because you have less experience and less knowledge of sad things. You have less knowledge of what you need to do to survive because other people are taking care of you. It's a more carefree existence. The problem is, even if you feel fulfilled, You're not going to be able to be happy all the time. What functionality is the ability to, even in the face of things that are ugly or sad or not what you want them to be, being able to get back to that place of satisfaction and happiness faster. When you're hit with something that's unexpected, being able to get back to that place quicker than somebody who's going to wallow in the fact that things went wrong and that they're not happy. I can accept when I'm not happy, and I can always find my way back. And that's a life skill that no one teaches you. Now, in regards to your question, Jordan, so I'm talking about all this big stuff and I'm answering people's questions, and it can be very emotionally taxing. I'm torn because I know that I can't and also don't want to do that forever. Even though it does bring me a great deal of satisfaction to help people, the manner in which I do it and the amount of time that it requires, and the fact that it quite frankly isn't necessarily moving me into a place where I can get a much bigger audience in a very fast way. Like I think eventually, if I were to do what I do for, say, the next 10 years, I eventually could build up a large enough audience that I could then make that my full-time job.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have it in me to do just this for 10 years because it's never fun. It's often ugly and it weighs on me. I'll tell a story. There was one morning where I woke up and I turned on my phone and I checked my email, and the top email in my box was from a girl, a Lieber friend, one of the people who is part of the community that follows my stuff. And I'd met her a few times I do live Google Hangouts every single week, and I've gotten to know a great many of these folks. And she was someone I'd met several times. And she wrote me a letter letting me know that she was going, as soon as she was sent the email, she was going to commit suicide, and that she was sorry that I couldn't save her. And that really, really screwed with my head because because I feel like it's my responsibility, but I know logically that it's not. It feels like something that's within my power, but I know that it's not. And it really legitimately changed everything. It changed everything about how I approach what I do and about my future. Maybe I was naive about it, but and thankfully she is alive. She is alive. She wound up in the hospital. Her parents found her, and she is alive. And she later wrote to me, and just to let me know that she was alive. And
Man,
it was an incredibly, incredibly painful thing because it made me feel like everything that I'm doing is kind of futile. The futility of it, the fact that even for every person who a few people have told me that they were going to kill themselves and then they didn't because of something that I made, the fact that I can't save everyone, I still haven't quite grasped it. Because when you it's not
your responsibility.
No, it's not my job. It's not my job, but I've made it my responsibility.
Naturally, you're a good person, and I think most people have that natural inclination. You see somebody in trouble, you want to help them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an instinct. You can even argue it's goes back to like caveman days, or even further back to our animalistic side. You know what I mean? But the logical side and the truth of it is, not to say that those people don't deserve help, but you're not responsible.
That's the thing is there's now I now have a level of detachment that I have to have in order to be able to do this in a healthy way. I know that ultimately people will or will not take my advice. There are questions that I simply can't answer because I know that no matter what I say, it's not going to help, or it's something that I've done before. Now when I receive, sometimes when I receive emails about suicide, I direct them to suicide hotlines, and I direct them to a few of my videos where I've talked about the subject. I'm not going to address the subject again. I'm not, because I've done it too many times, and it's not going to always work. It's not.
It's like the teacher and the student relationship. You can only show the student the door.
Right.
They have to walk through it.
Exactly.
And there's the value in it. It's their choice.
Right. And that's kind of the heartbreaking thing is when you see yourself in other people, because when I was a teenager, I had those same thoughts. I had those same fears. I had that same hopelessness, and you can't possibly know how much better life can get until it is better. And that's the huge problem. As much as I love and respect the It Gets Better campaign, is you can say it until you're blue in the face and it can offer some level of comfort, but until you've lived it for yourself, you have no conception. Your brain hasn't expanded to see what the world can possibly offer you. It seems like a fever dream. It seems like a movie. It's
perspective.
Sure.
We're in tunnel vision for most of our life. You even said it whenever you were born. I mean, you thought what is real, and then when you leave your mother, you're like, oh, this is the world.
Right.
What happens when we die then? That's something to think about too.
Sure. Well, I mean, the thing that gives life its beauty is its impermanence. We were always meant to just be here for a little while and experience what we can while we can. So in regards to your question, Jordan, I've changed the format of my show a few times. It was, unedited half-hour videos, but simply because I didn't have the time or the resources to edit them. But my audience really appreciated the rawness of watching me wrestle with a question in real time. I then changed it to short-form daily vlogs because I thought it would hit better. And it actually wound up hitting about the same. And then I decided to change it to a podcast and to change it to and to launch a Patreon. And that decision was motivated by the fact that I wanted to launch a suite of content. I didn't want this to be the one thing that I did. I wanted to be able to move back to a podcast medium, which is my favorite medium. I personally believe that podcasts are really the future.
They're all right.
The future of I know, but it's to me it's the future of media. It's our generation's thing. YouTube, I feel like is more for people that are younger than us than it is for us. At least in my experience, I would much rather listen to people have a real conversation in this world where it's harder to have a real conversation every day because we're building walls between each other with all this technology. It's connective, but it's not actually what we're doing right now. It's a tweet can't possibly convey this much emotion.
It relieves my loneliness.
Entertainment on the go, though.
No, it really does.
It's one of those things where even if like I used to live in New York, and one of the benefits of New York is that you can get on a subway. You don't have to drive anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You have so much more time in a day to read a book, to do whatever. But like if you're in your car traveling on like the fucking 405 for 3 hours because you just can't do anything, like that's the best thing you can do is just throw on conversations of people, because unless you're on the phone or something, like that's just the go-to for entertainment.
Yeah, I've often thought about Phil. And the Philip DeFranco show, because I know that after he's been doing it for so many years, and the fact that YouTube, you really can't take breaks. You have to keep producing. I know that he must at some point be exhausted with it and wrestle with the idea of letting it go at some point. Yeah. And I personally, I know, and I haven't necessarily conveyed it to my audience because I don't know when it will be, but at some point I will stop doing this show. And we'll just have to be satisfied with the good I was able to do while I was doing it. Because I personally, outside of the fulfillment of when people write back and they say that I was able to help them with a situation, which, doesn't happen all the time. Other than that, I don't find it creatively fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's honestly, I feel very responsible for the people who are paying attention to me, because I don't want them to fall down a hole. Yeah. I don't.
Well, the
They're
evolution
all
of the artist too.
Well, yeah.
For you yourself, it's your own journey.
Sure, but it's like in getting to know these people, because I have these Google Hangouts, because I watch their vlogs, they're all such decent people. Amazing, incredible people, whether they're younger than me, older than me. We all have the same thing in common, which is that ultimately we believe that people should be kind to each other. And a lot of them have never really been able to make friends before, and now they're making friends. And like some of them are pairing off and dating, and that's something that I still can't, I try not to even think about. But go ahead.
No, I just want to comment on what you just said, and I think it's because, and I have this inclination, especially with other actors or people in the industry. I'm like, oh man, like the other shows I've worked on, I'm like, I want to be friends with you. Like I love like your work as an artist, and I love working with you, and like there's that natural inclination, like let's form this like mini tribe, and it's like it doesn't always like just scheduling or for whatever reasons,
Sure.
you can't always be connected like that. And so sometimes on Twitter, you tweet at each other or whatnot. And I think it's because of this new age we're in where connectivity happens like that whenever. We feel this like overwhelming feeling, I guess, to be connected with everyone constantly. I don't think this would. Do you think that would have happened like 20 years ago?
Oh God, no.
No, FOMO is very new. The fear of missing out. It's a very, very new phenomenon.
I've always had that, like
Yeah.
being late to some place.
Oh, sure. Well, no,
Oh, yeah.
being late to some place, I feel like is different. FOMO is the fact that we're seeing everybody's lives. We're seeing the highlight reel of everyone's lives and assuming that that is actually all that there is.
I didn't know that was a thing, but that's
Oh.
like my life. Like,
Yeah.
like the
Fear of
minute
missing out.
you have a
Yeah.
party and the minute people leave your house, I'm like, oh, I'm sad.
Yeah.
Like it's just like a complete depression of
Well,
like
that's why I
wanting
go to
to
parties
be
too early.
with everybody and like doing everything all the time.
Well, that brings us back to the Instagram feed. Because no one's going to post on Instagram the fight that they had with their brother or their girlfriend. They're
Or
not
we
going to
hope they don't.
Right. We hope that they don't. And they're not going to post a picture of their dented fender when they get into a car accident, or like some people do.
Yeah, right,
but
yeah.
my point is, people are deciding what to share. But that's all that we're seeing until we actually get to talk to them. So those people who you don't actually get to spend time with in real life, you're seeing a filtered, watered down version of their life that it looks a lot sweeter than it actually is, with commentary from them.
Yeah.
And because of that, we start to examine our own lives, and it makes our own lives feel emptier because maybe we don't have as many memories. Maybe we don't have as many interesting photos to post. Maybe we don't have as many statuses to post.
That goes back to my thing of like, and somewhere in what you were saying and all that useful information, it's about living in the moment to the best as you can, like what you have right now. What's the best what's the best you could be with what you have right now, I guess.
Being present is something that I'm still learning how to do. And I would say I've really only started working on that in the past year, because once I learned that I was funny, like in college, like I'd never really had friends before, like not any kind of deep friendship, and I didn't think that I could ever have it or that I deserved it. When I realized that I could be funny and that could be a reason that people would keep me around, I never really turned that off. And because of that, there's always a level of detachment because you're just performing for people instead of just being there. And I'm also somebody who's very, very busy, and I'm always planning ahead. I'm always thinking about what I have to do next. And that, again, is keeping you from being present. I think of one of the best things that my girlfriend has taught me is how to just be able to shut off and just be somewhere,
Right.
and be able to be truly vulnerable. Because like right here on this podcast, I'm sharing a lot, I feel, about myself. And I've always been that guy who'll just share, and it disarms people, and I feel like I can get to know people pretty easily. But like to really be this guy right now who's wholly here and wholly trying to connect with you is something that I didn't realize I wasn't doing. And I feel like a lot of people maybe have that where they think like, I'm doing the best that I can. I really want to connect with people. I think I do connect with people, but maybe we're not actually sharing who we really are.
Matt, you're connecting with me right now, and I appreciate that.
We actually have some listener questions.
We-
to
Yes,
jump in.
yeah. Let's answer these questions.
Sure.
Actually, so at Captain Haley, you're always
Oh, hi, Haley. She's a wonderful
Oh,
girl.
Haley.
you're always motivating others. What motivates you?
Oh, boy. Sometimes I really don't know, Haley. Sometimes I don't know. I think that the people who pay attention, who give my voice, who make my voice matter, they motivate me. So I do AskLiebs. I do my show because of the people who listen to it. I wouldn't be doing the show if those people weren't paying attention, and if it didn't matter to them. I would not be. Is what happened to your headphones?
Oh, those
I'm
are the
so
broken
sorry,
ones.
Haley. My headphones literally broke in my hands.
Just endure it.
All right.
I think. I mean, it's that, and also just in general. I would be bored doing anything else. Like that's the thing, is like I'm trying to figure out what gives me the most.
My Instagram feed.
Your Instagram feed motivates me. I guess it's just like I've been given an opportunity to actually do the things that I want to do in my life, to create and to share with people, make art, send a message, help people, whatever it is. the fact that I've been given an opportunity is something that I will never let go of, that I'll never forget about. Very few people actually get it. Very few people have the opportunity to exercise their gift in life, and to know that I can. I'm not going to stop until it hurts. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Can't stop, won't stop. Get it.
Especially with what you do, it's like it's very personal. It's very revealing of your innermost thoughts and like what you've gone through and stuff like that. Especially from what you said you started off your vlog as. Like that's got to be a very revealing like vulnerability that you must put out there. That must be exhausting.
I mean, it is. It can be. It's weird to like switch tacks and then to do something comedic that's not really about me and then to go to do that thing. They're two very, very different animals. I've been trying to inject more comedy into my channel and to be honest, I don't know how. I don't know how. Because like when I walk into the office and I know that I'm going to go write comedy for a living, then I can do it because it's not about me. I'm making a product and that's a thing. But if I'm going to make a sketch or something that's going to live on that channel, the channel that people come to for support, I frankly don't know where to start.
I have a suggestion.
Now I'm nervous.
Rubber chickens.
Sure.
People make a compilation of people falling down. I know that's hard to do via a podcast, visual.
Or just go push people, but cut it so that it's just them falling down.
There we go. It's funny. I actually, my producer probably won't be happy that I'm telling you guys what it is, but like I shot the first thing that will be a sketch on my channel. It's my guinea pig doing stand-up. And it's just a guinea pig doing stand-up, and we shot all the footage yesterday, and then like we bought her like this doll's microphone that looks amazing, and we like cut it down to size so that it looks like that, and like
it's like a mini stage,
like tempting her with kale. No, we put like a green screen over a platform in my studio, and we're gonna put her into a comedy club and have like real people laughing at it. Using stock footage. But I feel like that's fun and that's silly and that makes me happy. So I guess in terms of what motivates me is like what's going to bring me joy today. Legitimately, it's a combination of responsibility and what will actually like make me feel alive, because most of the time you're going through the motions, you're doing the same thing every day. Like one of the pieces of advice that I often give to people is like if your life is feeling very samey, just take a different route to work. Drive somewhere that you've never been before. When you're in a new place, when you're somewhere that you've never seen before, your brain is now suddenly recording new information. And to me, it wakes your soul up in a big way. It's like if you can't go traveling, if you can't afford to fly somewhere, even just take a trip down a different street just so you can see something else and log it in your geographical map of where you live.
I'm sorry. I don't know where my mind's at. I just imagine.
Yeah, what are you thinking about right now?
Okay, this is a little insight into my humor. I could hear somebody going, you know what? I'm going to take a different route to work today, and they get like carjacked or something.
Sure. Yeah. Listen, go down to Skid Row. It's going to wake you right up, okay? It's going to wake your soul up.
Such a dark humor. Do you have dark humor?
Of course. I feel like being on the internet and being a web personality has kind of curbed a lot of it. Like I've found like a deep filter of, again, responsibility, like trying to promote like the most positive messages and to be all inclusive, and it does kind of water down my perspective a little bit. And I'm still trying to find the balance, because I do think I'm definitely not in line with a lot of people who think that like rape jokes are funny. I personally don't believe that sexual assault is funny in any way. I do think that anything can be made fun of, and I do believe that comedy is where we find a lot of our philosophy. I do think that taking on the horrible things about our lives, the horrible things about society, and sending them up is very important. I do not think that rape is funny. I do think that making fun of the male gaze and rape culture is very funny, because it is so incredibly rampant, and we now finally have a level of awareness in our society that people will understand those jokes because they do see that in their lives. Even if they can't pinpoint it as rape culture or they can't pinpoint it as misogyny, they do see it. And a lot of people get very defensive. I make fun of...
change the channel!
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing. If you don't like what you're watching... Click.
I make fun of white people and I make fun of dudes more than anybody else, because we are the most sensitive people on the planet because we've been in charge for fucking 2,000 years. And finally people are calling us on that. And a lot of people who don't realize maybe necessarily that we've been in charge this whole time are getting real defensive because it's like, we never asked for that. We just have been. Everyone's coming out of the woodwork and they're changing everything.
Yeah.
Colin Kane has a video on his YouTube. He's a stand-up comedian, and it's one where he's getting heckled.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, shut up. Like, I've made fun of every single demographic here. Like, white people, black people, Asian people, fat people, gay people, fat people, fat people. Like, and I was just like, I don't know. I just got a big kick out of that. And
yeah. And there was
this is amazing to me.
There was a comment recently, and this is maybe why I brought up white dudes, is there was a comment on something, I don't even remember what, who was just like, Matt, I've been a fan of yours for such a long time until today when you started white baiting. And I'm like, what? White baiting? Where it's just like what, like you keep making fun of white people as if we've all done something wrong, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, in my head, I'm just like, I am not talking about any particular person. I am talking about us as a group of people accepting that I come from a legacy of being white and being male.
Yeah.
Two things that have gotten a lot of people a lot of cachet and a lot of what's the word that I'm looking for? Agency throughout history. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about your brother. I'm not talking about anything. I'm addressing the elephant in the room, which is the fact that white men have a hell of a lot of agency that women have yet to receive, that people of other races have yet to receive. Being heterosexual, you receive a hell of a lot of agency that, that homosexuals, bisexual, transsexual people, the fact that trans culture is finally really getting a spotlight is enormous. And I don't understand why we aren't all more taken aback and impressed and like really interested in this. I don't get it. It legitimately, like, I would say more than any other big spotlight on any subculture or any subdivision or race or nationality or sexuality or gender or whatever, the idea of transsexuality will more clearly define our society than I think anything in human history. The idea that gender is fluid and that is normal and that is okay and that people have a right to decide for themselves who they want to be and how they want to identify themselves is a lightning bolt. It is everything. Within 100 years, that will be the most normal thing in the world. And it blows my mind that we're not having more of a general conversation about it. I feel like there was the Caitlyn Jenner moment of just sort of like, okay, this is someone that a great deal of Americans and people around the world are aware of, and she is transgender. And then the conversation kind of ended there. To me, and then it became more about, wow, she looks great on that magazine cover, and it like immediately this person who is an Olympic gold medalist, I believe, is just like an Olympic medal winner, and a reality show star and a fixture in American culture was immediately treated the way that women are treated, which is how great does she look, instead of who is she?
Yeah.
Like
it's both. It's amazing that it was given such a spotlight for a person that to be able to do that. And then in both ways, it's like almost like kind of like humbling, yet also a little bit out of touch to be like taking someone who's been viewed as like a heroic icon for what she's done about herself, and that it's been so brought to the public attention. But at the same time, too, it's like she's being brought to a level of like how everybody else is like personified as like, oh, look what she's wearing, look what she's doing. It's like it's become the average norm, which is great, but it's also like, I don't know how to put it. You get what I'm saying?
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
it's she's been put into a spotlight, but in doing so, we as a culture have revealed how we treat women.
Yes.
In doing so, we've revealed that, but the problem is, far fewer people are seeing that than they're seeing the picture of her. They're not taking in this pop culture event and this person who's put herself out there in a huge, vulnerable, exposing way. And they're not taking it in and saying, what does that say about myself and the people that I know? Instead, it's separating her as the other, and it's like, well, I guess this is happening now, and I guess that these people are doing this, instead of taking in, like, fucking, like, President Obama being the first president to come out and say that he supports gay marriage. Like, that kind of a thing. We very rarely in our society take that in and say, what does that say about me and the people that I know? Am I in the wrong? Am I on the wrong side of history? Or am I, like, even in a subtle way, doing something that's backwards? Because I know I fell into the trap of, she looks awesome on that magazine cover. I fell into it, and I talked about it for days before I realized that is exactly, like, what we all do to female celebrities.
Yeah.
Is it ultimately comes down to that. Who wore it best?
I think, I mean, to put a button on it, you said it already earlier. It's like, who is this person? And I think we should ask that question for everyone, regardless of race.
And ourselves. Really,
yeah, and I think that's where a person's worth can come out of. And I think before you start asking, or judging other people's worth, you should really take a good look inward. We're running out of time, unfortunately. Do we have one more listener question?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No.
We are actually out of close to out of time. Yeah,
close to out of time.
Well, actually, do you want to pop one in, or do you think we just
Come on, pop
if it's a quick question, I think we
one in.
can.
Just
And then, we wrap
what is
it
your
up.
favorite part about being a SourceFed host?
Oh boy.
Limit your answer to 10 words. No, just kidding.
3 words: making people laugh.
Yeah.
Making people laugh. It's sometimes a stressful job. Making new content every single day is very, very hard, especially when we used to be coming in at 6 a.m. to do it. But just getting to make people laugh and hearing so many stories from people who SourceFed has kept them going when their life is really freaking hard, that is the best part. That is the best part, is knowing that we not only make comedy that people like, but we also make a positive difference in people's lives, because I certainly wish I had a SourceFed when I was growing up.
Matt, thank you so much for coming on the
Dude,
show.
thank
man.
you for having me.
This has been an absolute pleasure and a blast. And
I wanted to say that was from @LittleMiss80s.
Oh, hi, at Little Miss 80s. I'm trying to place who that is.
That's me.
I'm going to look it up.
I just asked that question.
I wonder if that's a Lieberman. I'm not sure.
Actually, because Matt is on the show, and he works with SourceFed, we wanted to give away a backpack to a lucky hashtagger from FHP.
Is it my backpack?
I was just checking online. Is it still available?
I don't know. I think they've stopped selling the backpacks.
Really?
Yeah.
They
So
do
it's just
have
whatever
some
we
new
have
ones
left.
that just came out.
Really?
I think so. They have like the plaids and all that different
Oh,
stuff.
very
so,
cool.
So if you want to, what's a good hashtag that we've done today? Or
Instafollow? No, I'm kidding.
Forget the brain, didn't we?
Oh yeah, it was hashtag forget the brain.
Hashtag forget the brain, and tag us, Matt, and we'll pick a lucky winner from Twitter to
don't like
receive
that
a free
hashtag.
backpack.
You don't like
no?
it?
Wait,
You
what do
came
you
up
want to do?
with it.
What do you want to do? What the Kugel?
Hashtag what the Kugel.
What the Kugel.
Kugel being spelled Kugel. Because we're gonna get a whole bunch of COOGLEs.
Google.
Yeah. Yeah. Hashtag what the Kugel.
What the Kugel?
What the
So
Kugel?
yeah, one lucky winner.
It's a sweepstakes, people. Go ahead.
Bum, bum, bum.
Matt, absolute pleasure. Jordan, yes, you were about to say something?
No, it wasn't.
Oh. Dude, this has been such a great episode.
Thank you very much.
Of course, man, and best of luck with all your projects, and we look forward to your secret project, Nuclear Family.
Nuclear Family, just keep hope alive. It's coming out, I swear. There are a lot of people who are just like, did that ever happen? Is it not going to happen? It's coming out. I just can't tell you when. Sooner rather than later, hopefully.
And where can people find you on the interweb?
Oh, man. You can find me on Twitter at Matt Lieberman. My podcast is AskLiebs. You can find that on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes. SoundCloud and iTunes are up to date. YouTube, we release 2 weeks later because we do day and date only for our Patreon subscribers. If you want to check that out, you can go to patreon.com/Matt Lieberman. Yeah, I mean, that's basically everything. If I'll show up on SourceFed and SourceFed Nerd from time to time. I still host Superhero Roundup Fridays live at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on SourceFed Nerd.
Awesome. Jordan?
At Jordan Burbank 7 on Twitter.
Wonderful.
Thank
Wonderful.
you. Always wonderful.
Big thanks to Nikki. You can find her at Nikki592. She's smiling, as always. That's all she does. She smiles.
It's wonderful.
It's not all she does. She
Just
also
everything.
produces your whole podcast.
Yeah, she's like taking.
You're doing what we just talked about with Caitlyn Jenner.
Good.
Oh.
Good. I don't know. That's the only way to say it.
Nikki, you're amazing. Thank you for being you.
Yes. I thought you were saying that to me real quick, and I was
You're-
like, thank you.
Thank you for being a friend. I won't break into song, but
Well, we're gonna end the show with a little thank you to GVB Studio. Big thanks to Gabe and everyone involved, to the listeners. We had a ball.
At
You
least
can
keep
find
a
me at
beat.
WeSamKish. Twitter handle.
Not a 4/4 beat.
Anyway, thanks to everybody. As always, you can find us ActorsAnonymousPodcast.com, our Twitter at PodcastAA. You can find me at WeSamKish, WeSamKish.com.
have a happy Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. And always remember to listen, think, and then talk.